Even before having watched the greatest movie of all time, Godfather, I was very interested in the game Mafia. Just that, Mafia. There was 3 parts of it. I already knew there was 3 parts. I knew there was Mafia 1, 2, and 3. I knew that 3 had sucked, but I never had tried out Mafia 1 or 2. And so once I was able to acquire it, I went and played Mafia 1 and 2. I first played Mafia 1, but I didn't play the original version of it. There's 2 versions. There's the original version, which came out on PC originally, and then there is Mafia 1 Definitive Edition, which came out on all consoles, essentially. This Definitive Edition seems more like a remake more than a definitive edition, because it basically new textures, new cutscenes. It looks like a completely different game, but it has the exact same story, and that's probably why I decided not to play the original and just play the definitive edition, because it's considered a remaster rather than a remake, but it's a very good one, let's put it that way. This definitive edition surprised the hell out of me. I wasn't expecting Mafia to be that good. I wasn't expecting the game to actually shock me. There's 2 points, there's 2 sectors of this game. The first is its story, and the second is its gameplay. Now the gameplay, majority of it surrounds the story. There's also a separate part where you can just free roam around the world that they've built, but then there's the main story. The free roam part of the game is what you usually will be playing in the main story, which is the driving and the on-foot section. You could even say Mafia is basically a GTA clone as well. You could say it's a GTA clone with a noir setting around it. The hit detective video game LA Noire, but it's not that. It has a noir setting, but it's its own complete style. At least for Mafia 1. The driving mechanics, the driving rules, all of these things were very realistic. So when you were driving in like a real road, there is traffic laws you have to abide by. At least not in the 1950s, but there were still traffic laws in terms of going past the speed limit or, running someone over. If the cops see you going past the speed limit, they will stop you. They'll give you a ticket, or you can bribe the cop, or the cop will arrest you. So if they give you a ticket, you can bribe the cop with like $50 and then pay off a ticket. That's usually what would happen, right? But it's a very realistic cop system. If you don't stop when the cops tell you to stop, it will go to 2 stars and they can shoot you on sight, or they can arrest you. And then if it goes to 3 stars, they can actually shoot you on sight. So it was a very realistic system. So that's one thing that the gameplay really does, is its realism in terms of driving and the free roam aspect. When it comes to its gunplay, it is very, very unrealistic. The fact that my character, Tommy Angelo, can mow down an entire army's worth of men and kill the man that was trying to come after him at the last mission and still come out unscathed is just, it doesn't make much sense. It's very impossible for that to even happen. But it is a lot of fun to play. So there's a realism aspect when it comes to its driving, but when it comes to the gunplay, not so much. There was even a point where the shotgun wouldn't make any sounds, which was very strange. However, it was a bug, and the bug fixed itself in later parts of the game. But it was still really fun to play. The movement is smooth enough so that I don't feel restrictive, which is a big point of mine, is having restrictive movement. I don't really like restrictive movement all that much. And so it was great that the game does not have that barrier of restrictive movement, allowing a free-flowing movement where one doesn't just get stuck all the time or having to fight with the controls on my controller. Again, it is a almost new gen game, so they obviously have the new third-person controls, which is great, honestly. It's also very much a cover shooter. You can go from a cover shooter, or you can try more things like Watch Dogs type of game, right? Where you can experiment with the things that the game gives you. Not as much experimentation for sure, but enough so that you don't feel like the game is going in a specific pattern. You're not a cover shooter throughout the entire game. Though the game doesn't really incentivize doing experimentation, which is one thing that I would love more games to do, is incentivize experimentation. Not let the game get stuck being one thing on its own and being declared just that, a cover shooter. Which GTA could also be declared a cover shooter, and any of the games that are GTA clones could be considered a cover shooter. But if the game incentivizes experimentation, then very much it wouldn't be considered exactly that, a cover shooter. The story, on the other hand, was something that really did surprise me. The story is a mix match of all sorts of Mafia movies. You can say The Godfather was an inspiration, you can say Goodfellas was an inspiration, you can say any Mafia movie, because it's a mix and match of it all, creating its own little story. Its own little story that connects slightly to real world, because it does have the Prohibition era and then post-Prohibition era, the drug era, and then the gambling era. You get the point. It is still doing the same beats as every other Mafia movie, movie, but it's able to capture the same feel. And that's exactly what I wanted from a Mafia game, for that matter. Hell, I didn't even know I wanted that until I played it, because it was so good. The story really revolves around Tommy Angelo trying to get out of the life, right? But he's explaining how he got in, where things went wrong, and why he's trying to get out. It's a little bit different to how the character in Goodfellas was trying to get out of the life. Well, he wasn't really trying to get out of the life. He got caught and now wants to get out of the life, or at least get away from it, to be more precise. He never really wanted to leave it, he just wanted a way out of prison. In this case, Tommy Angelo actually wanted to get out of the life. He realized the dangers of being in this life. It's a great way of showing that by starting at the very end of his story, and then you get to see the start of when he became part of the family, and how the family had its rise, its fall, and its complete downfall. Which means, in the sense of Tommy's perspective of the family rather than the family itself, because in technicality terms, the family is actually going in a rise with them joining the drug trade, you could say. They went into a rise. But that wasn't what Tommy really wanted, because going into drugs is a whole other story of its own, because Tommy still has his own moral code to say. But the thing is, the introduction to drugs in the family means there's a lot of problems with that, right? There comes a lot of problems with that, and he's seen it when they had a rival gang they were going up against, which is great because now he knows that dichotomy. He knows why it's not a great idea to go into this drug business, and he sees that no matter how big you get, no matter how powerful you become, if someone wants you taken out, you will be taken out. And if someone's coming after your life, you will die by that person. You won't even die by the person that's coming after you. You'll die by some random schmuck they've hired to kill you, because that's what happened to that rival family. He was a random taxi driver that was able to just take care of a don of another family, and he realized that if that's gonna happen to me, I'm gonna be taken out by a random schmuck. And what does happen at the very end of the game? Exactly that. He gets taken out by a random schmuck. Well, a random schmuck to him, but the main character of Mafia 2. Which is a great way to segue into Mafia 2 and to see where that happened. Even though Mafia 2 has nothing to do with Tommy Angelo, it is still a very similar story. Though with Mafia 1's conclusion, I was surprised. I needed to play more of Mafia. I wanted more of this game. The story was really good. The gameplay was serviceable enough to carry that story, right? I usually champion gameplay. Gameplay is first, secondary comes story, right? But they usually have to complement each other. Otherwise, the game is just either going to be half good or half bad, regardless of which side you fall on. And so this game has serviceable gameplay. So it does get past the 5 out of 10 of gameplay. It gets past that. And the story elevates it even more because the gameplay needs to be very simple. To make a gamey game out of Mafia 1, the story wouldn't hit as hard because of all the gameplay mechanics you have, which is something Mafia 3 fails to understand, which we'll get to with Mafia 3 once I beat it. But it ended up being something I really wanted to continue playing once I had completed it. The story of Tommy Angelo, as tragic and uplifting as it may be, it was definitely something that I wanted to see more of. Something similar, something I wanted to continuously experience. And that's why I definitely really loved Mafia. It's definitely one game that you would call an experience more so than a video game. So Mafia 3 gets a 8 out of 10, mostly because of its story. That's why it elevated the 6 out of 10 gameplay. Otherwise I would have given it a 6. However, the story elevates it, so it gets an 8 out of 10. That was Mafia 1. Mafia 2 is still out there, and Mafia 3, oh god, Mafia 3 is gonna be a big one.